the 2023 Diplomacy Broadcast Network Invitational. 401 total participants, 320 total games, 27 countries.
All three major forms of play throughout the year.
The largest diplomacy competition in history.
This is top board format, win or go home.
That's going to be a showdown for the ages.
This is everyone for themselves.
No slouch in the group, killers all around.
Who will be the ultimate winner of the Calhamer Cup?
Who do I want to surround myself with? Who are people that I get along great with? Who are people that will work with me?
I can make this work. I'm not really afraid of anybody. On a given day, I can be as good as anybody.
And this is like a board of very strong players. So I kind of get a sense, are there any grudges between players, or are there any people that are really likely to ally together?
We need to play a game of diplomacy and have some fun. So it's obviously awesome to play another game of diplomacy and see what I can do again.
That just was a nice challenge to lay down. I like difficult challenges.
The style of the pressure on the game is sort of depends a bit on who the players are. Sometimes you worry that paints you as a bit of a target.
Nobody would like to leave the victory to anyone. It's very dynamic, much more balance of power.
There's histories all across this board.
This is going to be a real demonstration of how to play top board diplomacy, I hope.
I'm looking forward to people just going all out, just really drive the knife back in there.
It's Super Saturday, and 7 top diplomats are going to be fighting to win the 2023 DBN Invitational Top Board Championship and claim the Calhamer Cup. Hi, I am Kevin O'Kelly, one of the behind-the-scenes producers here at the Diplomacy Broadcast Network, and thank you for joining this pregame show. We are going to take a look at the insight from players' thoughts from their successes last weekend to qualify for today's top board, and then ask them what they're thinking about leading into this top game. Kickoff is only a couple hours away here on DBN, and we'll have a link to the broadcast down below. It starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That is, I think, 12:30 a.m. Do my math right for one of our players from France, and a 10:30 a.m. start time for our friends in Australia. We are looking forward to this broadcast, so go grab a drink and be ready to get an insight in how these top players think. And with that, let's go to our first interview. If absolute zero is as cold as it gets, absolute fire would be a way to describe the play of Riaz Virani over the last couple of months. Winning the Virtual Diplomacy Championship and then winning his hometown face-to-face tournament, Carnage, a couple of weeks ago, Riaz came in and secured his spot to the top board with a dominant performance. Let's hear what Riaz had to say about that.
All right, we're right off the back of another game finishing, and we've got our latest championship game qualifier here, Riaz Virani. Welcome.
Thank you, Marcus.
And congratulations, you just waltzed to a solo in a semi-final round. How does that feel?
It feels good. The game went. It was like a whole bunch of things just ended up all working out in my favor. And as France, when everything's working out in your favor, I mean, we know what happens, right? Where it ends up.
Yeah. So how confident were you going into this game, and how did that confidence change as you went through the game?
I was fairly confident because I'd played with a lot of the players before and had really good relationships with a lot of them in terms of, through playing games together, developing a lot of respect for each other. And at the same time, just, joking around and discussing other games. And so there was a board that I really had a lot of good relationships with. And so I was feeling very good about that going in, but you never know how it ends up, right?
Yep. And I mean, you came out with a solo. Were you in any way expecting a solo going in? Were you going to try and push for one, or just for the top?
No chance. There was no expectation of a solo. The expectation was of a board top. But what ended up happening was, I think a couple of people weren't aware of the full rules that were posted, and thought that they would get points for second place, and so they kept vetoing draws. So I got to 11, and then they vetoed, and then I got to 14, and they vetoed again, thinking that they could get some points. And then all of a sudden, the smaller powers all said, "Well, what's the point here? Just take 18. It doesn't make a difference to us." And so I said, "Okay, I'll take 18."
Makes sense. I mean, so you've mentioned there what contributed most towards your win in the late game was probably those towards the actual solo, was those powers saying you could go ahead and take it after all the vetoes. What do you think contributed most towards setting you up for going for that run, putting you in the lead going into the late game?
I think part of it was I had a really good relationship with everybody on the board, whereas my German ally, before I stabbed, he had developed a really sour relationship with Russia. So at the time of the stab, I actually checked in with Russia and I said, "Hey, Russia, what are you going to do here? You want me to turn on Germany. I know you're busy enough in the south. Am I going to see a whole bunch of stuff up north and a Stop France campaign?" And he said, "No, I'm just going to keep going at Germany. I'm going to take my home centers back from Germany, from Turkey, and focus in the south." And then at that point, I just said, "Okay, well, what have I got? I've got nothing to lose. There's no resolution anywhere else on the board, and I'd have a big difference between myself and Germany."
Of everyone on the field, not just the people on your board, who would you be the most scared of making it to that championship game?
Who would I be the most scared of? Probably Ruben. And the reason why is he wasn't happy that I decided to take a solo at the end. And again, we have a really good relationship. We get along great, but you never know, something like that can carry over, or somebody could be upset about something. And so that would be the one that I would be probably most concerned about.
All right, but I mean, out of the solo, you probably have that first pick. We don't know for sure yet, obviously, but hopefully it will be worth it. Have you got any strategy in mind for that championship game now that you don't have to worry about the second chance round?
No, I think the strategy will just be to watch the DBN broadcast, watch how others are playing their games, and once I have an idea of who that top board is, start to figure out what power would it make most sense for me to play, and who do I want to surround myself with? Who are people that I get along great with? Who are people that will work with me, and they won't just say, "Hey, look, he got a solo as France in 1908, so I'm going to attack him, and I can never work with him." Just try to avoid that, and try to avoid that mentality from people, and avoid people who feel that way.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the insights there. Massive congratulations again, and we look forward to seeing you in that championship game.
For sure, and thank you, Marcus. Thank you for all your work.
This interview with 2016 World DipCon champion Chris Brand shows how someone who has the skills, takes a little time off to help us behind the scenes, can jump right back in and pick up where he left off. Chris topped our first board last Friday night and is ready for this top board.
Okay. Hi, I'm here with the winner of the very first DBNI semi-final game. Congratulations, Chris Brandt.
Thank you.
So you were actually one of the players, despite being a former world champion, by DBNI seed, you were not going to be able to play in the second chance round. So this was your only chance of the win, and you managed to pull it out. How are you feeling coming out of that?
Yeah, I kind of scraped it. I wasn't in the top 28, so it was only because some people couldn't play that I was playing at all. So, so yeah, sort of scraped in by the skin of my teeth. And so, yeah, honestly, I went in with no real expectations. I went in to play a game of diplomacy and have some fun and see what I could do. So it's obviously awesome to now have to play another game of diplomacy and see what I can do again.
I guess you kind of answered this. How confident were you going into that game, and how did your confidence level change as the game went on?
Yeah, I mean, these semi-final games are a little bit different to a lot of games that you play a lot of the time, just because it's a winner-takes-all format. I've got a fair amount of experience playing that kind of game, so yeah, I wasn't worried about it from that point of view. Whereas I think some of the other people, haven't played as many of that sort of game. So yeah, it's a little bit of a different dynamic, which I'm quite comfortable playing. But yeah, I didn't, as I say, I didn't really go in with any expectations or an awful lot of planning either. It was just like, yeah, okay, I know what I'm going to play. I'm going to go and show up and play the game and see what happens.
Right. So, well, the game ended in a bit of a surprising way. That 11-11 draw. Do you want to explain what happened there, and were you surprised at that moment?
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise where it was actually Katie, I think, who suggested that she came out into the game chat and said, would anyone veto a draw at this point? And then everyone else disappeared off into a room to talk about it, left me there to look at it myself. I triple checked with Zach. Now, just want to make sure how the tiebreak works. If we have a draw now, I win, right? So, but yeah, I think Katie was feeling that, yes, she could take Munich, I could take Sev, but then it was pretty much going to end up. There were three big powers, and then Russia was fairly out of it at that point, fairly irrelevant at that point. So the feeling was that there was very much going to be a dynamic of if one of us attacks the other, then the person who's attacked can throw centers to the third person. So you get that sort of a three fairly equal power situation can be fairly stable just because no one can afford to do anything. So I think that was everyone's feeling was that there wasn't really much more play in the game at that point. Maybe Russia gets killed, but it probably doesn't change the result. Having said that, I mean, there's definitely an argument you could make that, well, why not play on a bit and see if it actually works out that way? But obviously I wasn't going to vote against the draw at that point.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on coming out on top of that. What do you think contributed most towards your win in that game?
Yeah, like I say, I'm pretty comfortable playing that kind of game. I managed to get to the point where I was in control in the East. Well, maybe not in control is the wrong phrase, but dominant enough that when things didn't go my way, I could deal with them. Yeah, the early game was fairly nice to me. We managed to take out Turkey. And yeah, then, I mean, I had some setbacks with neighbors deciding that I wasn't such a good ally after all. And but every time that happened, I was able to fend them off pretty well. And then, I was talking, I actually wasn't talking very much with Katie, but I was talking a fair amount with Jason Massbaum, who, so there was a point when we talked about, well, why don't we just get rid of Italy and share his dots between us? And eventually we engineered that. And at that point, then I wasn't really worried about that front as much. I could concentrate on Russia. So it was I mostly managed to avoid being attacked by too many people at once. I was dealing with one person at once and I outnumbered them. And yeah, I made a couple of judgment calls that with hindsight I would make differently, but in every case I evaluated the downside, and the downside wasn't too bad. So I think I played a good game. I'm happy with the game that I played.
I think you should be very happy with the game you played. You won it.
Oh yeah, but, you got it better.
Alrighty. Finally, have you got any strategy in mind for the championship game?
No, not really. I'm going to do the same thing. Show up, play the game, just see what happens.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it worked out brilliantly this time around. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again in the championship. Congratulations.
Thanks, Marcus.
We are certainly lucky to have had Noam Brown find us. Noam, with Meta's AI and the Cicero project, is introducing new aspects to this game. Noam certainly has learned a little bit about it or two, as he has been on top board before and will be competing today for the top prize in virtual diplomacy.
Okay, hi. We have just come off the back of the game 2 of the DBNI, and here I have the winner of that absolute marathon of game. Welcome, Noam, and congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a couple questions about the game. First off, how confident were you going into this, and how did that confidence level change as the game went on?
I was not confident at all going into this. This is like a board of very strong players, and so I was pretty realistic that my chances were pretty slim here. And also, like, I don't know, Germany in a marathon game like this is probably not one of the better powers to play. I think. I mean, you're always going to be vulnerable, and so I didn't have very high hopes, but I thought it'd be a fun experience, and so I figured I'll just give it a try and see what happens.
And it was an absolute marathon of a game, as we mentioned. Went almost full time, actually, probably the full time, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. So, at what point in the game did you feel, actually, I'm going to win this?
There were actually there was a point in kind of like 1911, 1912 where I thought I finally had it locked up, and we did a draw vote, and then the draw vote failed, and I was like, okay, well, this is just like Nicolas trying to go one more year to see if he can pull it off, and then I got stabbed by Karthik, and then it looked really bad for me for a period. Like I really thought like, oh, I blew this whole thing, and it's all going away. But I got a couple lucky guesses, and then I think by like 1914, I think it was pretty clear that I had it locked up finally.
Yeah, it was a very well played end game. Congratulations on that. What do you think contributed most towards your win in that game?
I think I meshed really well with like all the players on the board. They're all personalities that I get along with. I feel like we understand each other, like see eye to eye on a lot of things, and so I can kind of understand, like what they're going for, what their motivations are. Usually like whether I would be like crossing a line if I do something. And so I think that helped a lot, actually. Like these are all players that I really enjoy playing with. I would love to play with again.
Have you got any strategy in mind for the championship game now that you don't have to worry about the second chance one anymore?
I think I'm going to keep a close eye on like the other boards, try to see, how different games evolve, like try to get a sense, try to like learn a bit about like the relationships between the players going into it. So I kind of get a sense of like, are there any grudges between players, or are there any people that are really likely to ally together, and see if that gives me any insights into like possible alliance structures going into the game.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations once again, and we'll see you in the championship game.
Yeah, thanks.
Our last semifinal qualifier from Germany is Robert Schuppe. Sadly, due to a conflict, Robert can't make the game today. However, his incredible performance to top one of the semifinal boards is still worthy to show his winning interview after last weekend's game. Let's hear from Robert now.
All right, we're just coming off the back of our fourth and final game of the night, and I'm here with the final semi-final winner, Robert Schuppe. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Yeah. So that was a marathon of a game, went all the way to time, and it was close right to the end. How are you feeling on that final year, and how are you feeling coming off that result?
Coming off of it, I'm feeling very good, but also pretty tired. It was kind of draining. In the final year, I felt fairly confident that I would win it, but it felt a little bit like I was carrying a raw egg to the finish line, and I was like, okay, I just have to carry it to the finish line, but don't drop it, because I really was afraid. Even though I was kind of confident that it would work, but I was kind of afraid that I would make a stupid mistake, or some of the people who had sort of halfway pledged to help me win this would have second thoughts and then decide, oh no, maybe somebody else should win it. So it was still pretty nerve-wracking, but yeah, I felt kind of good that it would work.
Well, congratulations on carrying that egg without dropping it. So you were confident in that final year, or relatively confident at least. How confident were you going into the game in the first place?
It was a weird mix. In a way, looking just like on paper at the lineup, I thought that's a hell of a board, and I kind of thought, okay, I'm probably the least experienced player, at least in terms of like top boards, because I mean, it's essentially top board what we played in terms of the format, and I had never really done that before, and I think everybody else on the board had. On the other hand, I kind of had that mindset that, okay, on a given day, I can be as good as anybody. So I felt like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have ranked myself as a favorite at all. I probably would have ranked myself as one of the worst players on the board. But I felt like, hey, if everything is right, if I have a good day, I can make this work. And so, yeah, it was a weird mix between the two, really.
And speaking of making it work, what do you think most contributed towards your win?
Two things, really. The first thing was making sure that our side of the board, the West, resolved more quickly, or like it resolved at all, to be fair, which Ed Sullivan and I did sort of with a playstyle that might be unusual for that kind of a format. We had I started out as with an EG alliance, but then we swapped to an FG, and that lasted for quite a while with a little hiccup here and there. And I think we played a bit more like up-tempo alliance game than most people would do on a top board, but I think it worked very well because the East didn't really resolve and was quarreling amongst them quite a bit, and we both got in a very strong position. And then in the East, I had to make sure to outrace especially Ed and sort of Greg as well in Russia, who had gotten himself into a good position as well. And I think I mainly did that by having two people who sort of were on my team. Liam in Turkey, just because I felt he wanted me to win. He liked me as a winner, and Brandon because he wanted to see Greg punished, and I helped a little bit with that. And that's kind of what was the decisive factor in the end. And some tactical things, like I think Ed had a few kind of suboptimal tactics in the last few years. So did I, but in the end, it maybe less than Ed. I don't know.
Okay, so speaking of that final game, have you got any strategy in mind for it now that you don't have to worry about the games tomorrow?
Not too much. I mean, when I see the full board and who has what seed, I can sort of start thinking about like what I might do in the Paris method and so on, and who might pick what. In the end, it will come down to what I usually do, which is finding a good partner to work with, or maybe even two in the beginning. And then because there can be only one winner and no like shared board tops also, or if there's a shared board top, there will be a tiebreaker. In the end, it really comes down to improvising. So I think you can only make a plan for the early game, if at all. So, and that will be, find somebody I feel like I can work with and gain some leverage and grow a bit. And then, from 1905 onwards, it will be just freestyle, I guess.
All right,
if I make it to 1905.
I'm looking forward to seeing the freestyle. Congratulations once again on your win, and we look forward to seeing you at that championship game.
Thank you so much, Marcus.
This year's Invitational has a different twist. In the first two editions, players competed over 2 rounds equally. This year, a board top was required to make it to this grand final. The first second chance board was played 24 hours after the initial games finished with a stellar lineup. Who else but the inaugural Diplomat of the Year, Peter McNamara, would come out on top of that one too. Let's hear from Peter. And I'm here with the winner of the inaugural second chance DBNI board number 5, Peter McNamara. Peter, congrats on your board win today.
Thanks for that, Kevin.
So we know you have a lot of experience in the DBNI. You won the inaugural one in, I think it was February of 2021, kind of that first pandemic year. You made it back to the DBNI last year, did not make it, had played against, I think, some players you were on this year's boards with, and then made it into the first round at a very high seed, but then had to make it to a second chance board. going through all the preparation, what was it like playing on these two different types of boards this year?
The boards did play a bit different this year, I felt, just because there was no scoring system, there was no value in getting a decent number of points that you could then carry on into the second game and hope that gave you an advantage. So that, I think, affected some of the play style. Certainly, compared last year, I felt like that came up more than the first year. Of course, the first year, I was involved in a solo, so I didn't have to think about points at all, which always makes things much easier.
We're kind of following the second board on the sidelines, and the pressure, the intensity seemed to pick up midway through the game, a little dissimilar from the first round game. Did you feel it differently with the pressure being this is everyone's last chance to make the top board?
I think sometimes just the style of the pressure on the game is sort of depends a bit on who the players are. I don't know if it felt that different from me. They sort of both games you're there, you're trying to top the board, and I don't want to go to the second chance game, but plan B is plan B, and that it worked out for me, fortunately.
I was going to say, so plan B did work out for you. What was the biggest contributing factor to topping that board?
Am I allowed to say qualifying in a high enough seed that I got to pick France?
Well, you can say that. However, so you're number 5, and we've already had the first 4 on yesterday's broadcast. But yesterday's broadcast had 2 Germanys, an Austria, and a France. So the power selection has not been to the benefit. So it had to been some kind of play style. You had a good alliance early. You got a good tactical move in. 3 builds in 1901 doesn't hurt, right?
Oh yeah, 3 builds in 1901 is always a nice way to start. Sometimes you worry that paints you as a bit of a target, which I think it definitely put England against me for a while, and I was very fortunate that Kartik did decide he was going to just walk into the North Sea and convoy into Edinburgh.
Yeah,
and that was probably that was probably the most key thing that happened early on was Kartik deciding he's going to take Edinburgh.
And then from there, I don't think you ever looked back. You held at least a share of the board top the entire way until pulling away at the end.
Yeah, I had a reasonably comfortable position throughout. It was one of these games where you don't get bothered by Italy because they're too busy dealing with an Austrian-Turkish alliance in the east, and then slowly grind your way through as you can sometimes do with the French position.
So you're in with topping this 5th board. You get to put your feet up as you watch these next 2 boards that are going to follow here. You know some of the contestants on the top board. You might not know them all yet. What is preparation for this top board going to be like, seeing that you've already been to one and won one?
I haven't worked out what the preparation is going to be like. It might depend on what time of day it is, because there's a threat that it's going to be at a very, very early hour, and the other option is it's just at an early hour. The qualifying times are much nicer. They're a 10 a.m. start for me, which is perfect.
Well, we'll see. We know you have the diplomatic skill and the tactical skill to get there. It's just a matter of maybe the luck of the neighbors. So we look forward to watching the rest of the broadcast today, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Peter McNamara, congratulations on making the DBNI top board.
Thank you, Kevin.
Lesser known to viewers in the United States and North America, Ruben Sanchez has been on a number of WDC top boards and has now competed well in recent virtual events too. This skilled player managed to come from behind in his second chance board. Let's hear from Ruben.
All right, I'm here with Ruben Sanchez, the winner of our very last semi-final game here and the last qualifier into that final. Congratulations, Ruben.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Marcus.
Okay, we're just going to ask you a couple of questions about your win. The first one, coming into this game, how confident were you about your chances?
I was really not confident in this game because really the table for me was difficult. There were like four French speakers playing on the east, and I was playing Russia. It's difficult for me sometimes to play with French. It's very dynamic, sometimes aggressive. In addition to that, there are two people from Switzerland. We were playing with Christophe, Austria, and Steve, Turkey. So I was fearing an alliance between them, but it's exactly what happened. I had a difficult game also in the first round with Steve. It was a bit difficult, and at the end, even if I've done a good score, at the end it was a poor game because Riaz made an exceptional solo. I won't comment it. It's not the purpose of of this game, but it counts also for this game. So not so confident, and I knew Liam. I met him in Carnage. I knew Head also, but I mean, I think the only player was Greg in England, and even Nicolas. I never played with him, so for me the table was difficult. That was the first impression, and it has been.
Well, regardless of how difficult it was, you came out with that win. What do you think most contributed to that?
There was a lot of how can I say changes in this game. I faced first of all a strong attack between Austria and with Christophe and with Turkey, and I had a good relationship with Liam. In the west, there was a nice alliance between England, Greg, and Head in France, so they were progressing well. So it has been a bit difficult for me to in the north for not collapsing completely, and in the south I've just played defense always. At one stage, Austria and Turkey wanted me to play with them. It's true, I had an excellent game with Liam, so I continued just with Liam. After there is a major change in this game, it's the turn just before Steve, unfortunately, left the game. Just the turn before, there was a little changes in the order by Liam. And Steve was really upset because for him, he had a vision of the game. I should have played with him at one specific stage. Unfortunately, I was not sharing the same visions than himself. And it's always difficult in a game to have one of the main players of the game leaving the board because his game was not lost at all. So the main change was this one, the left of the leaving of Steve, and Ben replaced him. And at the beginning, I tried to continue with Liam because I had an excellent relationship with him, but unfortunately, Liam followed Ben, who is really a talented diplomat. So I had to struggle again in the south, but I managed to reverse the situation, and we've done a very good alliance with Ben, and we progress very well. And what was, in fact, the main for me phase of the game is when Steve left, and the second one is at one stage we progress well with Turkey, and at one stage Ed couldn't resist in the south, so there was like a common decision to leave me the game. I just defend myself in the south, and happy to take the win.
Well, yeah, it was a fantastically played game on your part, and as a result, we are going to see you in that championship game next weekend. Do you have any strategy going into that?
Not really. You know, it happens quite a few times. I'm qualifying to top boards, but at the end, those top boards are always difficult to me. So I will see. I will just try. I think the start of the game and the mid games are very important because I guess nobody would like to leave the victory to anyone. So it will be much more balance of power, I guess. Because in the game we had, it was qualifying game. It's true that also there were no points, in fact, for the second place, so it had an impact also. So no specific strategy. I had a lot of fun, by the way, in this tournament. Organization was spectacular. Not a single problem on the part of the organization. So congratulations really to all the team because I mean it's making alive this hobby, and I think that DBNI is doing a lot of effort for that. So I'm really thankful because even if people cannot travel, they can start to play and progress. And maybe it's, I will say, complementary for me to face. So congrats to all the team. I really enjoy those games. They were very good. Yeah.
Lastly, of anyone you wouldn't want to give a second chance to, Brandon Fogel got his and turned it into a ticket to the top board. Let's hear from Brandon. And I am here with entering the tournament, #1 overall seed, and yours favorite from Chicago, Brandon Fogel. Brandon, congratulations on the win today.
Kevin, thank you very much.
So coming into the tournament, I know you from Chicago. You did what you typically do going into top boards is you kind of see the board, see the players, and drop to where you want to pick. But in the second chance board, you took the advantage, you took the top seed, you took France. Was there a little bit of pressure kind of going into this second chance board where you knew you took the statistical advantage to kind of give yourself a better chance to win?
I mean, there's huge pressure, right? Because it's win or go home at that point. To be honest, my experience of top boards is not that France gives you a statistical advantage. In fact, my experience is that it's a disadvantage, especially as the top seed. And I did not think that that was going to be different here, because that's also been the case in game top boards that DBN has covered. Russia has won like 5 times, right? The winner is more likely to come out of the East, and France hardly ever wins. The #1 seed hadn't won at all. And so I took that approach in the first game as well. And then I saw what Riaz Virani and Peter McNamara did in their games. And I said, you know what? I'm going to learn from other people's experience. And so I took France. I took an aggressive opening, which is also something that I don't like to do in general, and especially on top boards. Wardy and Jason, I think, were also wise to this. Like, they had seen the other 2 games as well. Wardy had been on Riaz's board, and so they responded, but it didn't work out. I was able to I got some good fortune from Bradley on the other side, and then I was able to kind of navigate this pretty difficult briar patch in the West. And that was one of the keys to success in that game.
Did you feel the pressure to be as aggressive as you mentioned with your opening, or were you in a sit back and patient mode like I know you in a lot of other games?
My approach was to start aggressive and sort of ensure that I was going to be a player in the mid game. Like, that was kind of my idea. Once Wardy turned on me in spring of 1902, I knew that the fast start was not going to happen, and I knew that I had to play defense, try to get other people on the board to help balance things, and just sort of observe the whole board and look for my opportunity to break the forming EG. And it came fairly quickly, but the alliance structure in the West was pretty fluid for a while, and Wardy was still attacking me. Jason had to turn around, and then I was siding with Jason for a while. And then there was this sort of awesome moment where Wardy rebuilt 2 fleets as armies, and so looked like completely useless to me as an ally. But as it turned out, that was like a sort of vacuum sucking in the attention from England. And Wardy popped an army, and I hatched this plan to rebuild it as a fleet, get Wardy back on side. And it fit in with this whole tapestry of the whole board, where the IT was suddenly winning the East. It was about to resolve. Russia was very nervous and on his back heels because of that. And so so Bradley and Russia and Wardy and I formed basically a three-way alliance that took out England rapidly, and then was able to turn around very quickly and block the East. Honestly, I think that is my relationship with Bradley and also with Wardy, especially with Bradley, I think was probably the most important thing to this game.
Yeah, so that was going to be, I think, the question we've been asking is the biggest contributing factor. And we heard you on the broadcast as well as here. It sounds like it was a diplomatic victory rather than a great tactical move at the right time.
I mean, it's a combo, right? Like, so the turnaround in the West, in order to resolve the West in those sort of in a span of 2 years, that required some good tactics. You know, I went from not having good position on England to having overwhelmingly dominant position. And then again, I had nothing in the Mediterranean. And then within, I think, 3 turns, I had dominating position in the Mediterranean, right? Like, so there were definitely tactical aspects to that. But ultimately, it came down to relationships.
Again, congratulations on winning Second Chance Board number 2. I think we're calling it game 6. I forget what we're calling it. But we know that you made it, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the grand final. Brandon Fogel, congratulations.
Thanks, Kevin. Looking forward to it.
That wraps up the interviews of the successful play from the top board qualifiers. We've asked them since then, as they've been thinking about this top board, what are the pressures? What are the expectations? Will you have any fun? Let's hear how these players are heading into Super Saturday. It's the biggest game of the year with some big names. So you are the newest addition to this top board. What's it going to feel like heading into a board with such big sharks and big names on this board?
It's going to be fun. That's, I think, the most important thing. I'm pretty happy to be part of such a board. I mean, just top players everywhere, so that's really good. Then, yeah, it's a bit strange to qualify as an alternate. So I was not expecting it. I had already thought that, it's not for this year, maybe next year, and now I'm back in the race. I don't know. I mean, I take it a bit as a free roll. I mean, I won't choose my country. I won't choose my neighbors. So I'm going there, and I'll do my best, try to have fun. And if things go my way, great. And that's my approach to this game.
That's excellent. And it's a bunch of players you've known. I know you were on a qualifying board with Peter. You were on a qualifying board with Brandon, obviously, you know, Ruben from the French hobby, Chris Brand, you faced off face to face many times. These are different types. You've spanned the horizons of face to face, virtual face to face. What is the DBNI going to mean when you get onto that top board and you're playing for the title?
I mean, it's a super important tournament, and it's not really my style because it's a very long games, and I think I'm better when the games are time limited. So it's a big challenge, and I like challenges. You know, I've done quite a few face-to-face tournament and virtual tournament, but DBN I haven't done so well so far. So, you know, maybe that's my opportunity, or you know. If I don't make it, then there is still next year. But yeah, it's one of the most prestigious tournaments for sure. So I'll try to win that. And
what would it mean to win a top board like this?
Well, I think it's the beauty of DBNI. It's really international. We just mentioned that together. We have one player in the Australia. We have player in Europe. Player in the North American continent. So it's really also showing the fact that the German Robert unfortunately couldn't make it, but he is from Germany. So it's really international. So it's really also showing that this type of tournament is gathering all the good players worldwide. So it's really an opportunity to play on it here and have fun, I hope.
There's no one on this board who is not qualified to be here. What's it like playing against players like this of this caliber?
I'm just quite happy to have made it, and I think it's really an opportunity for players to play good games. That's at my first motivation. I know that there are really top players in this tournament, so you are sure to have really good quality games. So that's a must, I will say. So that I'm quite happy on this. Yes. First of all, it's for me an opportunity to play with good games, first of all, and good players, and I will enjoy it whatever happens.
All right, so Peter, we're getting near Super Saturday here. The board has completely filled in. There's a bunch of sharks on there, players you've played against many times in both face-to-face and virtual face-to-face. What's it going to be like playing on such a great board like this?
I'm looking forward to it. This is sort of one of the things you really look forward to, playing against a board with just top players. This is what top boards are about. A chance to really test yourself against the best, and they're really exciting. Looking forward to this one.
Being a worldwide event, what would it mean to be a second-time Diplomat of the Year?
Well, that is the goal. I would like to be a second-time DBN champion, so I can reclaim my lead in terms of most DBN titles won. Currently sharing that with Jason Massbaum, and let's try to rectify that this weekend.
Next Saturday, actually this coming Saturday now, is the final. So 2 years ago, Tiny Gill dominated the circuit, won the VDL championship, and then just got targeted in trying to make it to the top board. Nicolas last year one-upped her, won the VDL, made the top board, but couldn't deliver in the finals. So how are you looking at this year's opportunity as being the VDL champion, as making the top board, and now potentially being the first to do the double?
I am delighted that Peter McNamara and Chris Brand and Riaz Virani have also made the top board, because I think they are very plausibly bigger stars than me. And I don't think I'm going to have to worry about being targeted specifically. And we've got, the rest of the board is really high quality as well. We've got two up and comers in Robert Schuppe and Noam Brown. And Ruben Sanchez is not as well known to people in North America, but he has made top boards at world championships. He's very capable of winning. I don't think anyone's going to go into this thinking that they have to be afraid of other people.
What's it look like knowing you've got a former DBN Diplomat of the Year, former world champion, the current VDL champion? You've got some tough competition. What's it going to look like when you step up to the board on Saturday?
That was true regardless of who got through to the final, right? You pick pretty much any seven people out of that field of 28 or whatever it was, including the people like me who managed to sneak on in the last minute. And, you've got an excellent board regardless of which of those seven people you pick. I know I've played, I don't know that I've ever played with Noam, but everyone else I've played at least to some extent. I've actually... Ruben and Peter, I've been on a world championship top board with them before, so it's not like it's new territory for us.
You mentioned a world championship board. I know you've been on one in my hometown in Chicago and walked away victorious, and we've seen you in a lot of face-to-face, but virtually you helped us out here starting the DBN. You do great work behind the scenes with Diplomacy TV, so we can follow all the tournaments throughout the year. What's it like jumping in to a newer crowd of virtual face-to-face players?
When we couldn't do face-to-face, I was playing to some extent with the virtual. I tried it out. For me, it's are a substitute for face-to-face, but face-to-face is really where it's at. One of the things I learnt is, and maybe this was just that I didn't give it enough of a try, but from my game, apparently I rely on something that isn't there in the virtual format. Like, I don't know whether I'm reading body language or something like that, but yeah, there was something missing for me. Or maybe it's just that, I've been playing face-to-face for 20 years now, so I know it better. I've been playing virtual for 4 years now, so yeah. So yeah, there's definitely a difference. I'm not as comfortable in the virtual format as I am in face-to-face format. I think I only played one virtual game last year, and there was one turn when I didn't get orders in because of technology problems. I write software for a living, but actually using technology is not the same somehow. So yeah, I'm going to be making sure that I don't do anything dumb like that as much as I can. Yeah, obviously I've got some ability because I'm here playing the final. So, yeah, the interesting thing with this this competition is that in order to qualify, you have to have done well somewhere else to start with, right? Which is, I mean, we don't have any face-to-face tournaments that are like that. All the face-to-face tournaments, basically, if you want to play, you go ahead and play. This is like pre-selected to get people who know what they're doing, who can win competitions, right? Everyone here can win competitions without a doubt. So yeah, there's something about I became a fan of top boards when I started getting on them, because it gives you a chance to sort of face up against the people who, a challenge. I relish a challenge, and beating the best is what I love to do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that everyone puts up a good fight, which I'm sure they will, and that I come out on top, which I'm less sure about, but I'm going to give it my best.
All right, Noam, we're nearing Super Saturday. You know who's on your board now. You've got two former world champs. You've got the current VDL champ. You've got the original DBN Diplomat of the Year. You've got others who have competed on top boards, yourself included. What is it like going into a top board that is going to be so tough?
Well, it's going to be an intense experience, that's for sure. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a game like no other. This is, 7 of the best players in the world. And, I'm not coming in with high expectations, but, I think it's going to be an amazing experience. And I'm hoping that, these are people that I can work with, and I'm able to squeak something out.
What does playing on a top board, a world championship type board, mean as you've kind of come through your, what I think, I don't know you that well, but your, it seems to be shorter but growing quickly, diplomacy career? I
mean, playing on a top board is like no other diplomacy experience, especially with players of this caliber. Everybody's in it to win it, and you got to account for that when you're thinking about, like, who you can trust and who's going to follow through.
So I'm here with, not even arguably, certainly the hottest player on tour right now. Riaz Virani is on the top board with us here, and we're talking to him about what the competition is going to be like on Super Saturday. Riaz, what are you thinking with these high-flying names that you're going to be up against?
The competition is going to be fierce. This is an extremely loaded board. I've never played with so much talent on one board before, with such high-quality talent. And I'm really looking forward to, but also very worried about the challenge that's ahead.
That was going to be my follow-up on that, is given the competition you're up against, what's it going to mean to win if you come out in the winner's circle?
To be the best, you have to beat the best. And this board, if you come out on top, you've beaten the best names in diplomacy. And it's going to mean a ton. It's going to mean that somebody like me, who may have been a lesser known player, has achieved something that perhaps they never thought they would when they started playing.
So this is your third DBNI, your first top board. What's the DBNI mean this time around, going through, and no offense, but abject failure the first time because of the unluck of the draw in Turkey, to last year getting closer now after a hot streak and the only solo we've had last weekend? What's it feel like to be on the DBNI top board?
It feels like a major achievement. I felt like I left something on the board the last time, and this feels great, but I'm not satisfied. It has to be win or go home, and that's all.
I would like to thank all of the players for sharing some time and their insights into this great game. Thanks to Marcus Zylstra for helping us out with these interviews, and thank you all for watching. We look forward to the DBNI top board starting in a few minutes here on the Diplomacy Broadcast Network, and we wish all of the players the best of luck today.